Hi, I'm Debbie McGlauflin. I'm Skip Conover's wife. Skip has encouraged me to share with you something that I recently shared with him. These days, I'm deep into reading The Life of Shabkar, the autobiography of a Tibetan yogin, Shabkar Tsogdruk Rangrol, who lived from 1781 to 1851. His autobiography is one of the classics of Tibetan Buddhist literature and one of the spiritual classics of all mankind. It's a simple and moving account of the life of a wandering hermit from childhood until his ultimate spiritual enlightenment, expressed in the form of songs for people without special training. Songs that are instructive and humorous. In Amdo, his native province, excerpts were often read to the dying instead of the Bardo Todal, the so-called Tibetan Book of the Dead. In his autobiography, Shabkar freely shares insights, practical advice, dreams, visions, and some things that students of Carl Jung would instantly recognize as active imaginations. It is one of those, Shabkar's active imagination in song form, of an encounter between wisdom and ego while he was on retreat in a cave on an island in the middle of Lake Conover in northeastern Tibet, that I shared with Skip and would like to read to you now. I'll be reading, sorry, not singing, from pages 131 to 135 of the translation by Mathieu Ricard that has a foreword by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and that was published by Snow Lion Publications. And after the reading, I'll make a few brief closing comments. That year, I received all the provisions I needed and did not have to leave my retreat. One day, some valuables came my way. These were accepted by my ego, which began to speculate about them. However, wisdom saw this and chastised ego. You are the one who keeps those seeking liberation prisoners in the dungeon of samsara, forcing them to endure the punishment of various unwanted sufferings. You, evil corrupter, black heart enemy. Earlier, I didn't know how to find you. Today, I can see you clearly. For all the errors I've made up to now, you may take all the honors, but from now on, you cannot stay. Go away, get out of my sight. If you don't leave, were I to let you hang around, I, wisdom, would be a coward. So off with you now. Ego replied, hoo, hoo, ha, ha, yeah, I'm laughing so hard that I'm choking. Uncle Wisdom, listen to me. In which muddy swamp have you been lying, dead to the world? You've never come around to where I am. How wonderful that you've come today. Don't be in such a hurry to leave. Relax, stick around. Let's have a chat. Uncle Wisdom, listen here. In the past, many like you have made up schemes to expel and to kill me. Over and over again they've tried, but they haven't gotten me yet. Don't even bother trying, nothing will come of it. Just take it easy like you usually do. A good sound sleep is very good for you. Don't say mean things that only hurt my feelings. Your empty threats don't bother me a bit. However, unless I tell you the reasons for this, you'll never understand. Therefore, I'll explain a little. First, listen, wisdom. We can fight later. In this world, who is more influential than I? Sentient beings in general, and more so those who are seeking liberation, are all my serfs. When I just say the word, they all jump and come. Even in pouring rain and pitch black darkness, they come, nervously twitching like horses' tails, eluding the jaws of pursuing packs of dogs, leaving their grimy footprints across immaculate snow mountain passes. All these present-day gurus obey my every command. Leaving the Dharma communities, they wander into the villages. Giving up discipline, they gather up wealth. Giving up vows, they take up wives. All these present-day monks obey my every command. Losing interest in mountain retreat, they run around in villages, stirring the dogs into a frenzy. They are even busier than the householders. When they move from one solitude to another, they have so much to pack up, so much to carry. All these present-day renunciates obey my every command. Having done a tiny bit of practice, having had a few feeble meditation experiences and some small shreds of realization, they are so thrilled that they brag to everyone around. When they are praised in the slightest, they puff up with pride. All these present-day great meditators obey my every command. At first, they seem very devoted, yet even after they've been given the deepest dharma, if one fails just once to give them food and drink, they develop wrong views against the guru. All these present-day disciples obey my every command. With their mouths, they pretend to ask for teachings. In their hearts, they only long for wealth. They present offerings and service, but even if they are granted the most profound dharma, when they aren't also rewarded with delicacies and presents, they develop wrong views against the guru. All these present-day patrons obey my every command. For a few measures of cloth, for a few ceremonial scarves, they lavish secret mantrayana empowerments for a few mouthfuls of food. They trade away profound initiations. For just a single funeral rite, they sell out their present and future lives. All these present-day great teachers obey my every command. In a high place, they suspend their piece of wood covered with skin. They beat it incessantly, roaring out loud, hum, pei, jo, stop, strike, kill, cut, and make offerings of meat. All these present-day monks and sure practitioners obey my every command. Not paying the slightest attention to karmic consequences, they sell out the law for money. They let everything unpleasant befall the subjects they rule. All these present-day kings and ministers obey my every command. Even when they reach old age, they think they will live on. They keep busy raising and tending cattle. They spread out grain to dry and guard it against the birds, working as the servants of their children. All the old men of today obey my every command. Never thinking of their lives to come, even when they grow old, still they fluff the wool and light the fire, nurse their grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and their nephew's nephew, and work as servants for their daughters-in-law. All the old women of today obey my every command. Never thinking of the sacred teaching, killing men and stealing horses, keeping busy running farms and making profits. All the men of today obey my every command. Herding cattle and milking cows, fetching water, collecting wood, making tea, sweeping the floor, spinning wool and weaving, without even a second's leisure. All the women of today obey my every command. In this decadent age, all sentient beings in general, and in particular Dharma practitioners, whenever I command them. Unwind like a ball of wool, or wind up like a spindle. Didn't you know that? Think carefully, Uncle Wisdom. Does anyone ever listen to what you say? Isn't it obvious that these days no one respects you? Don't you see that everyone venerates me? These days, Dharma practitioners say they want you, but in their hearts, they all want me. If they had to choose between you and me, they would choose me. Why? Because you don't bring quick rewards like food. You don't bring drink. You don't bring clothes. You might bring benefit in the next life, but the future is something far away. The immediate is a juicy steak. I'm of use to everyone. Are the tea, the beer, the dinner good or bad? Are the favors big or small? Are the offerings lavish or niggardly? All these I acknowledge, and accordingly I grant or withhold immediate gratification. I handily oblige both high and low. Dharma practitioners are the servants. I am the master. Didn't you know that? Through a few desiring liberation, break my commands and join your side. As soon as I unleash the 5 poisons, they become like lice caught beneath one's nails. How many have ever reached the city of liberation? They are as rare as stars in daytime. Once upon a time, by a stroke of good luck, a few did escape. But in this decadent age, if I allow even one single person to reach the higher states of existence, let alone liberation, then my name isn't ego. In this decadent age, it is I who preside over the happiness and suffering of beings in general, and in particular over the lamas, nakpas, true practitioners, renunciates, and meditators. These days, in this dark age, my activity prospers. From the lamas and rulers to the most humble beggars, all are my retinue, my servants. Who is greater than me? Wisdom, tell me. Wisdom replied, Old tyrant, destroyer of the Dharma, listen. What do I care about your arrogant bluster? I am stronger than you. Though you've heard just the sound of my name, you are already faint with terror, powerless. When I wield the spear of emptiness and strike, where will you run off to? I told you to leave, but you keep hanging on. And now you start raising your voice. If I don't reduce you to dust this instant, wisdom might as well be dead. Do you understand this, ego, malicious schemer? Ego replied, Sure, yeah, sure. We'll soon find out who is stronger. Before, you took away some of my servants. So I came in search of you many times, but I couldn't find you. Now, I no longer need to look for you. I am so very glad that you came. When I rain down without let up the weapons of the 8 worldly concerns, you'll have no chance to escape. I have known plenty like you in the past. Not one has escaped me. If I were now to let you go, I might as well be dead. As ego finished boasting, wisdom arose and wielded the long spear of the view. Terrified, old tyrant ego ran off and disappeared from sight. I made this up for my own amusement and for the good of myself and others. Thus concludes the reading and the debate, a debate in which ego occupies 6 vociferous columns of text to wisdom's 1, but in which wisdom has the first and last words. Shabkar's wisdom mind starts with a declaration born of honest self-examination, of seeing ego at work in its grasping at food and other valuables deposited as offerings at his cave door. Ego then goes on full defense, expounding the many ways it distracts and derails those on the spiritual path with the weapons of the 8 worldly concerns, which are hope for happiness and fear of suffering, hope for fame and fear of insignificance, hope for praise and fear of blame, hope for gain and fear of loss. In the end, when ego tries to claim dominion based on its many successes, wisdom banishes it with the long spear of the view. The term the view refers to the genuine view of the nature of self and all phenomena, a view in which worldly concerns and the ego which upholds them are seen through. They only appear real while being inherently non-existent and empty. Ego is thus dismissed as the star of temporary dramas on the much vaster and more profound stage of the wisdom mind. Wisdom's dismissal of ego is much like when in The Wizard of Oz, the curtain is drawn back and the wizard's apparent power is understood to not be at all what it seemed. And so Shabkar's wisdom mind recognizes ego's shenanigans, and Shabkar chooses to remain in the view. By sharing the debate in this song, he invites us to examine ourselves and do likewise. Thank you for listening.